In today's headlines, we explore the alarming developments in global geopolitics, including fresh tensions in Eastern Europe and significant policy shifts in the Americas. Additionally, we'll highlight the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the Middle East. Here are today's top 10 stories you need to know. A new global health initiative was launched today, aimed at addressing critical health issues in underserved communities. This program focuses on improving access to healthcare, vaccinations, and sanitation. Health officials from multiple countries gathered to discuss collaborative strategies to combat diseases that disproportionately affect vulnerable populations. The initiative aims to unite various stakeholders, including governments and nonprofits, in a concerted effort to improve health outcomes. As the world continues to grapple with health challenges, this initiative represents a hopeful step forward. Key areas of focus will include maternal health, infectious diseases, and nutrition. The success of this initiative will depend on sustained commitment and funding from international partners. As discussions continue, the global health landscape is poised for potential transformation, with hopes for more equitable healthcare access. The renewable energy sector is experiencing rapid advancements, with new technologies emerging to enhance efficiency. Innovations in solar and wind energy are paving the way for a more sustainable future. Recent developments include improved battery storage solutions that can store energy for longer periods, addressing one of the most significant challenges in renewable energy. As countries commit to reducing carbon emissions, the push for cleaner energy sources is more critical than ever. Industry leaders are optimistic that these technological breakthroughs will help meet growing energy demands while minimizing environmental impact. Governments are being urged to invest in research and development to accelerate this transition. The coming years will be pivotal as the world shifts toward greener energy solutions. The focus on sustainability is expected to reshape the energy landscape significantly. Several African nations are grappling with significant political turmoil, marked by widespread unrest and urgent calls for reform. In countries such as Sudan, Mali, and Ethiopia, protests have erupted as citizens demand improved governance and enhanced economic opportunities. This unrest stems from a history of political disenfranchisement and economic mismanagement, exacerbated by the global pandemic's impact on fragile economies. Leaders face the daunting challenge of maintaining stability while addressing the deep-rooted grievances of their populations. External pressures, including economic sanctions and heightened international scrutiny, further complicate their efforts. Analysts caution that without comprehensive reforms, the risk of prolonged instability and potential conflict remains high. Government responses have varied, with some choosing dialogue and others resorting to violent crackdowns. As the situation evolves, the prospect for meaningful change hinges on the willingness of leaders to engage constructively with their citizens and implement necessary reforms in governance and economic policy. The global supply chain continues to face significant disruptions, with new challenges emerging daily. Recent data indicates that delays in shipping and shortages of raw materials are affecting various industries worldwide, from electronics to food production. This ongoing crisis has roots in the pandemic, but new factors, including geopolitical tensions, such as the conflict in Eastern Europe and ongoing labor strikes in key sectors, are exacerbating the situation. Manufacturers are struggling to keep up with surging demand, leading to increased costs and rising inflation rates. Consumers are feeling the impact as prices rise and product availability fluctuates, often facing empty shelves. Experts warn that the road to recovery will be long and complex, prompting companies to rethink their supply chain strategies with a focus on resilience and adaptability. As the interconnected nature of the global economy becomes increasingly apparent, the emphasis on local sourcing is gaining traction. In the coming months, businesses will need to innovate to navigate these persistent challenges effectively. Rising tensions in the South China Sea have prompted serious concerns from regional powers and international observers alike. Recent military maneuvers by China, including naval drills and the deployment of advanced weaponry, have escalated fears of potential confrontations with neighboring countries such as Vietnam and the Philippines. These provocative actions have drawn condemnation from the United States and its allies, who emphasize the need for a peaceful resolution to ongoing disputes. The South China Sea is not only a critical geopolitical area, but also rich in resources like oil and natural gas, while serving as a vital trade route for global commerce. As various nations stake their claims, the potential for conflict continues to grow. Diplomatic efforts are underway, but deep-rooted mistrust remains a significant barrier. Analysts warn that any misstep could trigger a serious military confrontation in this already volatile region. In the coming weeks, crucial diplomatic talks could determine the future stability of the South China Sea, making negotiations imperative. A recent summit on climate change has ended in a stalemate, with nations unable to agree on key policy measures. Delegates from around the world gathered to discuss strategies to combat global warming, but divergent interests led to deadlock. Many countries advocate for more aggressive emissions reduction targets, reflecting the urgent need to limit global temperature rise. However, others prioritize economic growth, fearing that stringent regulations may hinder development. This lack of consensus has alarmed environmental advocates, who warn that time is running out to address the escalating climate crisis. The summit was initially intended to build momentum for upcoming global agreements, but instead, it has underscored the deep divisions among nations. As the planet continues to warm, the urgency for coordinated action is palpable. Stakeholders, including scientists and activists, are now calling for renewed negotiations to find common ground. The next steps remain uncertain, but the implications of inaction could be catastrophic. As communities worldwide brace for climate-related impacts, leaders must prioritize collaboration and innovation to forge effective solutions moving forward. Latin America is currently grappling with severe economic turmoil, marked by soaring inflation rates that have reached alarming levels in various countries. This inflation has led to skyrocketing prices for essential goods such as food and fuel, prompting widespread protests in major urban centers like Buenos Aires, Lima, and Caracas. Historically, Latin America has faced economic challenges, but the current crisis is exacerbated by the lingering effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and global supply chain disruptions. Economists warn that if these inflationary trends persist, millions could be pushed into poverty, reversing years of progress in the region. Governments are scrambling to implement emergency measures to stabilize their economies, yet these efforts have yielded mixed results, leaving citizens frustrated with their leaders' perceived inaction. The social fabric is fraying as food insecurity rises, threatening the well-being of countless families. As international organizations step in to offer assistance, the potential for civil unrest looms large. Looking ahead, governments must prioritize effective policies to restore economic stability and regain public trust before the situation deteriorates further. A new report from humanitarian organizations highlights the worsening crisis in the Middle East, particularly in Syria and Yemen. Millions are facing severe food shortages, exacerbated by prolonged conflicts and economic collapse that have devastated local economies. Aid agencies are struggling to deliver essential supplies as ongoing violence disrupts transportation routes and safety for workers. Families are caught in desperate situations, with children being the most affected, suffering from malnutrition and lack of health care. The conflict has displaced millions, creating a refugee crisis that extends beyond national borders, overwhelming neighboring countries and straining their resources. International responses have been disappointingly slow, with funding shortfalls critically hampering relief efforts. The report emphasizes that without significant intervention, the crisis will deepen, leading to greater instability in the region. This instability threatens not only the affected countries, but also global security as extremist groups exploit chaos. As the international community grapples with its response, the need for a coordinated effort has never been more urgent. In the coming weeks, urgent action is required to address escalating needs as the conflict shows no signs of abating. On May 12, 2026, the U.S. government announced a significant policy shift regarding immigration regulations. This new policy aims to provide a pathway to citizenship for millions of undocumented immigrants living in the country. This decision emerges from years of contentious debates surrounding immigration reform, driven by advocacy groups who have long championed the rights of these individuals. Supporters argue that granting citizenship will not only help integrate immigrants into American society, but also stimulate the economy by addressing labor shortages in critical sectors such as agriculture and technology. However, critics warn that this policy may inadvertently encourage further illegal immigration, adding complexity to an already polarized political landscape. The administration is bracing for intense scrutiny as it begins implementation, with states responding in varied ways. Some express support, while others threaten legal challenges that could delay or derail the policy. This monumental change is anticipated to affect millions of lives and reshape the immigration framework in the United States. As the administration navigates potential hurdles, the focus will turn to how this policy will influence future immigration laws and border security measures, particularly in the run-up to the next election cycle. Tensions have escalated dramatically in Eastern Europe as military movements increase near the borders of Ukraine. Recent reports indicate that military exercises by Russian forces have intensified, raising fears of a potential conflict. This situation follows a series of ongoing diplomatic failures to de-escalate tensions since last year, including stalled negotiations and unmet agreements. The implications of these developments are profound, as NATO member states are closely monitoring the situation, with some nations increasing their military readiness in response. Experts warn that any miscalculation could lead to a broader regional conflict, potentially involving multiple countries. The international community is calling for renewed dialogue, but with each passing day, the chances of diplomacy seem to diminish. As the situation unfolds, the fear of a resurgence of conflict looms large, threatening stability across Eastern Europe. Analysts suggest that any military action could destabilize not only Ukraine, but also neighboring countries, leading to an influx of refugees and economic turmoil. The coming days are critical as both sides prepare for possible scenarios, weighing the costs of war against the benefits of peace. A diplomatic solution remains the hope, but time is running out. The urgency for decisive action grows as leaders face pressure to avert a crisis that could have lasting consequences for the entire region. Thank you for watching our top news stories today. Which of these stories shocked you the most? Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates.